I should have died before the new millennium rolled in. Instead of perishing, I was saved by a monster, a creature I'm still not certain of what he truly is. In exchange for healing my wounds and ensuring that I live a long life, he fused himself into my body. His end of the deal was to use my body to kill the ones who had wronged him. After the debt was settled, I was alive and well, but I had a monster forever stuck in the back of my mind, watching, the threat of him taking over, looming over every second of the day. It was not a good experience for the first few months. I was assured that Fex, the creature that was now stuck with me, would not take over my body unless it was an emergency or for work. I wasn't given an assignment yet. Silverman was the man who hired me to use my new monstrous powers to hunt down creatures of the night. He didn't want to give me any tasks until I'd adjusted to my new life. I'd assumed Fex would be the one taking over and be the one doing all the work. Just in case, he gave us an adjustment period before throwing us headfirst into a new job. For the first 2 months, I tried my best to become friends with the creature listening into my thoughts. He had not said a word to me since I woke up a new person. I started to wonder if he could any longer. At times, I could feel his emotions, and sudden memories came to me as he responded to questions instead of words. Sometimes I saw his form out of the corner of my eye or in reflections, a massive creature with dark fur standing on 2 legs, a pure black mane flowing behind him and his face covered. Seeing that behind you for a blink of an eye in the middle of the night while going to the washroom is an easy way to give yourself a heart attack. My life before was one of lying and cheating to get by. Now I had a nice penthouse to hang out and just live. I never had such luxury before. I thought this was what I always wanted, but soon found myself getting extremely bored. I started to wish that Silverman deemed us adjusted just to have something to do. Plus, I felt like I was losing my mind a little. Leftovers were going missing, or snacks I was saving for later. Yes, I could always buy more, but it was the principle of the matter. If Fex wanted to take over my body and eat, he should just tell me instead of waiting until I fall asleep, or maybe one of us was sleep eating. Our first task as this strange one-body team finally came. I received a letter telling me to meet Silverman in the park near sunset. This was back before the days of texting. I wondered why he even bothered with a letter. He could have just called. The weather was bitterly cold and the sun set early. The park was huge and it was easy to get lost. If it wasn't for Fex pointing a clawed hand in the right direction, I would not have made it into the prearranged meeting spot on time. From what I could tell, I was the only one who could see the massive creature following behind me. Silverman was late. I didn't like that man, but Fex adored him. It was a loyalty thing I wasn't aware of because I was born human. Apparently, all creatures of the night love their Silver King in some way. It was hardwired into their nature. I was certain some out there hated the man, but Fex wasn't one of them. Shivering in the cold, I rubbed my hands together trying to stay warm. If you put in the effort of sending a letter, you should at least be on time. When Silverman did arrive, he was just there. I looked down the path, then looked back to the bench for him to be sitting on it. I jumped nearly 10 feet in the air, startled by how he came in out of thin air. I wanted to curse at him, but for my monster's sake, I kept angry words to myself. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Silverman commented at my startled expression. He was dressed in a 3-piece suit with a wool coat over the top. Pure white hair was styled perfectly, and red eyes glistened in the fading light. This bastard was handsome, and the kind of man who knew it. He was the type of person I couldn't stand and spent most of my life trying to avoid. "You're late," I grumbled. "The sun isn't down yet, so I am not. Anyway, how have you been getting along?" he asked, dismissing my valid concern like a pro. "As well as someone with a monster possessing their body can be," I said with a shrug. "I was hoping to let you settle in a little bit more, but something came up. This is not a hit, more of a wellness check. Since you're not busy, I thought it was a good first task for you to bond a little. I held back my sarcastic reply. Fex was stuck inside my head. How much more bonded could you get? So, am I checking in on an old lady creature that hasn't been seen in a month or something? I asked, wondering what on earth a wellness check for a supernatural creature could possibly be. No, not something like that. I would like you to go and check on a creature that goes by the name Manifesto. I felt Fex perk up when he heard the name. Whoever was just mentioned was someone he knew. Suddenly he felt eager to know what our task was, and it was the most amount of emotion I have felt from him since our strange agreement started. Fex seems to know him. Is he important? No, not really. A small creature, all things considered. He is what humans call a ship demon. Back when humans sailed much more, ship demons were more common. In order to ensure the ship, its crew, and the cargo arrives to its destination safely, the ship demon demands a human sacrifice. Silverman started to explain, looking a little disappointed I didn't already know this. I understood the concept. Why risk losing your entire crew when a death up front makes it certain you'll get through anything that the ocean tosses at you? So many different types of creatures were out there, and I didn't know anything about them, but not for the lack of trying. It would be easier if these two would talk to me a little more. Manifesto is a rarity because he's still honoring the system. When humans started to abandon the ship demons, he stayed on, although the captain of the ship isn't aware of it. Back in the day, Manifesto was stronger and therefore could protect the largest ships. His sacrifice number has not changed from those days. 6 per trip is his limit. So far on this current trip, 4 people have disappeared. Fex had a flutter of stress and worry in the back of my mind. I understood why we were being sent for the job. He had a history with this demon and would know if something was off about him, but I didn't understand why both of them were even worried in the first place. If Manifesto could take 6 people, why go and check on him before he hit that number? He's still within his numbers, right? Why are you both so worried about this? When I said Manifesto was a rarity, I meant it. He is allowed 6 humans per trip, but he may only take 3 per year. Him and Fex appears not too interested in eating you humans. I think it's why they are associated with each other. Manifesto only takes elderly that would have passed on the ship naturally. For him to take 4 people, 2 healthy and young couples, it's just strange. I would like you to go out to his ship and meet him. Fex would know if anything is off about him. Report back to me what you find out, and if he goes over his 6 human limit while you're on board, kill him. I started to rub my hands together for warmth in the cold night. I also wanted to hide the fact that my hands shook a little over the idea of killing this demon. I know it was the job I took, but I never imagined we'd be tasked with killing someone Fex knew. Silverman was using the word associate, but I felt like these two had been friends in the past, or at least friendly with each other. Then again, I may be putting too many human characteristics on Fex. He had emotions, but his world was completely different from my own. I tried looking back into my head, attempting to get a feeling on what Fex was thinking of the idea of someone he knew. He either didn't feel anything about it, or had walls up blocking me out. It was only sinking in just then that Fex was a creature with a long history. This might not be the only creature he associated in the past he might have to kill for breaking the rules. Does it need to be us to kill him? I finally asked. There must be a different person to handle this sort of thing when I came up. Silverman looked at me, his eyes changing slightly in the dim light. I couldn't read the look he was giving me, but I didn't like it. A dark look that only a king could give. Fex rattled in the back of my head, stressed that I displeased his king in any way. You took this job. Try not to back out on the first sign of inconvenience. I took a step back, feeling a sudden pressure shoving down on my shoulders. His red eyes bore into me. I looked away, unable to stand the look, and Fex was freaking out at the same time. I did take this job. Still, I should take the feelings of the monster inside my head into consideration. Silverman's glare be damned. I wasn't going to do anything wrong by the creature that saved my life. I felt a hand on my shoulder and flinched. Silverman got up to be on the same level as me. I know it'll take a while to adjust. However, keep in mind that Fex is not human. How he has lived is vastly different from yourself. This is why I am sending you on this little check-in. Maybe afterwards you might understand him a little, Silverman explained in a lighter tone. He gave my shoulder another pat before he started to walk away from us. I didn't know which ship Manifesto was on, or even how to get there. If it was in the middle of the ocean, would I need to rent a boat? He barely explained anything, and now he was just walking away, giving us a wave without even looking back. Wait, how do I started. Fex knows what ship it is, how to get there. Just trust in his skills and work together. Have fun on your cruise. Wait, a cruise? Did I hear that right? Manifesto, a demon who takes human sacrifices to ensure the ship arrives safely, is currently watching over a cruise ship? That explains the elderly sacrifices he was taking. Those ships were crawling with him. Shivering in the dark park, I rubbed my arms over my coat, trying to warm up. At least this would be a warm trip, unless it was an Alaskan cruise, and I very much hoped it wasn't. When I got back to our temporary penthouse, I wondered what I would need to pack. The passport Silverman gave me should still be in the pile of new IDs that was made up. I didn't even remember my name yet. It would be a strange experience traveling with the monster in the back of my head. I found the pile of important paper and reached for it, only to have my hand get a mind of its own to snatch up a box of chalk right next to the papers. I was confused. What use could some chalk possibly have? I felt a prodding. I knew it to be Fex asking permission to take over some parts of my body. Lately we've been practicing letting him use my legs or my hand while I stayed conscious of what was happening. We also practiced how we should ask permission for a short takeover. So far it was all done by feelings. Fex hadn't actually spoken to me since the possession started, and it would help everything a lot if he would just tell me what he wanted. I watched him as he went to the front door, where flooring made of stone decorated the entryway. Using the chalk, he drew a circle enough for me to fit in comfortably. Then he wrote some strange symbols around the circle. Watching him, I had no clue of what he was doing. I flinched when he cut my thumb, placing a bloody fingerprint at the end of the symbol he just drew. Being half human, half monster meant I was hard to kill. I still bled, and it still hurt when it happened. Once it was done, my feet took a few steps forward into the circle and to what I thought to be solid ground. The strangest feeling overcame me. It was like expecting another step at the end of the stairs. My foot met no resistance, and I jolted when it finally hit the floor. Carpeted floor. I blinked, trying to ignore the feeling in my stomach. Looking around, I found that I was no longer in the penthouse, but in a large space that looked very much like a cruise ship. The hallway was covered in red carpet. Each wall was painted the same red color with gold trim. Looking up, I saw myself staring back down. The ceiling was curved and made up of mirrors. Hearing some people talk from the hallway, I started walking, hoping no one would notice how I suddenly appeared on a ship. Hell, I didn't even know how Fex just did that. I didn't need anyone to question me. Looking down at my winter coat, I wondered if I could pretend I was just wearing it because I was heading out on deck and wanted to protect myself from the wind. I felt the tug of Fex asking for permission to take over. I relented. Letting him have full control while still conscious was yet another thing I needed to get adjusted to. I could see my surroundings as if I was floating just beyond my body. I could feel what my body was doing unless Fex blocked the sensations. Having a 360-degree view of things was going to be very useful in the future. Since Fex wasn't speaking to me yet, I can only assume that this is how he saw things while I was the one in control. We paused, looked around to see no one in sight. Reaching into the pocket, he took out a new stick of chalk. I could feel this one was special through the slight tingle where it touched bare skin. Wasting no time, he drew another circle on the wall, surrounded by symbols again. Then he shoved our body through the circle where the wall should have been. A moment of darkness, then we were upside down on the ceiling, somewhere in the belly of the ship. Our upper body sticking out and the metal rippling where we touched it. The circle still surrounding us. Fex took a few glances around the dark part of the ship and ducked back inside the circle. We kept on like this, appearing at different spots on the ship and looking at different angles. So far, no signs of manifesto. Worry started to come from Fex as we kept popping out of the circle, not finding the ship demon. Even though I had no control of my body, when we peeked out into the busy restaurant, I made a silent scream, trying to duck back inside. However, not a single person looked our way. The small amount of information I'd gathered so far was, for some reason, as long as we stayed inside the circle, no one could see us. Whatever magic Fex used, it let us explore the entire ship unseen. No matter how hard the other creature tried to hide, we would find him. That was what I thought. More worry and negative emotions came in from Fex. My stomach turned and my head started to ache. While inside an employee-only area, he got our entire body out of the floor to walk, trying to settle his nerves. The circle moved with us, making it so we wouldn't be seen. The more he moved, the worse the feeling got. When the ship tilted very slightly, I found out why letting Fex have full control was not going to work out. I watched as in seconds he got to a bathroom stall, most likely one from the restaurant, and got very sick. I watched, unable to do anything because he was still in control. At first, I thought curses or magic traps came to mind. A very simple answer explained it. Fex was seasick. I was a bit despondent, but understood. While he was using my body, his senses was far beyond my own. He was stronger and could use powers I wasn't even aware of. The movements of the ship became enhanced and too much for him. It just meant we would need to search the ship and get information the slow way. Cleaning up, he let me take over again, and I felt just how sorry he was. He'd done enough for right now. Getting us on a ship in the middle of the ocean was plenty. He could trust me to take over from there. The best place to get information is a bar. Along the way, I got lost trying to find the damn thing. I'd stopped a few times looking at maps and found a few useful bits of history about the ship. Also, while walking, I found an envelope inside my coat pocket that had not been there before. Inside was a paper signed by Silverman. He thought it would be useful, giving us photos of the missing couple and their name, Ann Gott and Travis Gott, Leah June and Dean Woods. Memorizing their names and faces, I tucked the paper away again. If I could figure out where they disappeared off the ship from, I might have a place to start. The bar was fairly busy. I ordered a soda because I needed to stay focused. Scanning the room, I tried pinning down someone I could easily chat up for information. There was a decent number of younger couples. Here I was thinking cruise ships were only for rich retired folks. The small tables were full of groups of people. They all looked friendly with each other. The cruise must be in the final stages if so many people had time to become close. If someone passed by a table, the group would look up with half recognition on their face. Being on a ship for over a week may mean running into the same people, especially if you like the same bar or restaurant. The word June made me turn my head. Focusing, I found I was able to hear much more than usual. Fex was helping me out by enhancing one of my senses. However, it's not as good as it sounds. He lived his entire life in an inhuman body. He didn't understand I wasn't adjusted to hear every noise a few hundred people made at once. It took a lot of focus to mentally cut down on the noise. Standing against the bar, I slowly learned how to get used to this new skill. At first, all the noise made me flinch. I dismissed the music, then the clinking of glasses. Then I could get myself to focus on one conversation, even if it was from across the room. When I thought it wasn't of any interest, I quickly moved on. I felt a little bad invading someone's privacy in a small way. They were out in public, and I wasn't going to remember anything that didn't relate to my job, and that made it feel a little bit better. A few hours passed by, and I gathered up a few bits of relevant information. Scrap of sentences floating around. Anne and Travis were high energy. It's a shame those two left at the last port. We loved meeting them. Didn't another couple leave? No, the crew said they disappeared off the main deck. Sounds like a couple suicide to me. I saw my sister earlier this morning. It was weird because she felt sick and was in her room all morning. I waved, but she didn't even stop and denied ever seeing me. Bit spooky, right? For a few hours of listening, it wasn't much. I finally found the place to start. If one couple disappeared off the main deck, I just needed to find another map to get there. I tipped the bartender, glad to have my wallet in my jacket pocket. About to leave, I glanced around the room once more, just as music started to pick up, making it difficult to continue listening if I wanted. What I saw made me pause, body frozen, unsure of what I should do. By chance, I saw a man slide his arm behind a girl he was sitting with while she was distracted to dropping something in her drink. I blinked, wondering if I just saw what I thought I did. A rage at my back started to bubble over, made it clear that Fex noticed it too. Should I go over and tell her? That would risk attention coming to myself. Or should I somehow knock the drink over? Tell the bartender and hope he could do something? As I thought of what action to take, I felt Fex offer something. No words, just a feeling as if he had a plan on how to deal with this. Letting him take over to do whatever he wanted, the monster easily slipped in control, forcing me to look over my own shoulder. Using the condensation from the half-empty soda glass, he drew a circle on the bar top, a small one, barely noticeable with the tip of his finger. He drew symbols around the circle so quickly no one noticed what we were doing. Placing a palm over the top of it, I felt a cold sensation stuck to our hand. No water remained after the hand was lifted away. Slipping through the crowd, he faked a trip, placing a wet hand on the man's back and spilling the girl's drink at the same time. He was too fast, slipping away in the crowd before the couple at the table recovered from the sudden intrusion. My heart was racing. Fex switched places with me to make my way through the crowd. Risking a glance back, I noticed why no one was giving me any kind of attention. The man collapsed to the ground, strangers rushing in to help. I felt my hand shake slightly as I quickened my pace. Did we just kill him? Did I just let Fex kill someone? Yes, I was a hitman, but this was different. This was my choice, and what if I just made a mistake? Somehow, what if I mistook what I'd seen earlier and just condemned the stranger on a hunch? I didn't just kill someone because I had proof of crimes. I just let a monster inside my head take over on a whim. Rushing out, I thankfully found a bathroom that was empty. I collapsed into a stall, not even concerned about the dirty floor. My shoulders felt like thousands of pounds of weight were pressing into them. My hands shook and my chest felt tight. I've never felt like this before. Even when I was about to die, I didn't feel half this bad. Inside my head, my thoughts kept spiraling, convincing myself I'd just killed someone innocent. The more I thought, the more it felt as if I was having a heart attack. What if in the future I do this again? How many innocent people am I going to kill or let Fex kill? How many people did he already take control of my body to murder? What did I get myself into? Mason. The voice made me jerk my head up, unaware of the fact that I had tears in my eyes. Out from the wall, I saw Fex looking down. His monstrous form took up nearly the entire stall. Still hearing my name made me calm down a little. my real name. One I abandoned because I didn't want the one good thing my mother ever gave me to be tainted by the lowlifes I hung around with. And yet, it sounded perfectly fine coming from a monster with a mouthful of sharp teeth. After so long, Fex was finally talking to me.